from PowerFolder, and I'm here to talk about PowerFolder and the collaboration with Janet that we've agreed on recently and went public today. A brief summary of what we're doing. Most of you will not be familiar with PowerFolder. We are a small company from Germany that is rapidly growing right now, and we have tried to reduce our public relations and are just now starting to be more publicly visible. So I will just give you a quick introduction of PowerFolder, then go to the showcase of our current deployment in Luxembourg, and detail the cooperation with Janet on Project Moonshot. So what are we doing in the areas that are interesting to the educational community? First of all, we're providing a private cloud service that offers synchronization, collaboration, backup versioning, web access, mobile access. As some of our customers previously asked, so are you doing something like a Dropbox that we can have in our own facilities, on our own data, and have 100% control of our data? And the answer would be yes, and a lot more. So this is also the next point. We are really aiming at giving a solution that gives 100% control over the data to you and integrate our solution 100% into your existing infrastructure. So what we do is we provide something like LDAP access, federated radio support, our own internal database, and various APIs to ensure that you can carry over things such as quota of users, existing user databases into your PowerFolder deployment. For example, you can even have a authentication chain that you have a federated radius user. If it doesn't exist, it will look at the LDAP, and if that doesn't exist, it could still use the powerful internal database. We believe that's a very powerful and simple way to achieve this technology and this use case. And you might ask yourself, because you might have not heard about PowerFolder, is that something that's just a theory, or is it really working? And yes, it is working. In the education space, this might be the most interesting case right now. The country of Luxembourg has decided in summer of 2011 that they're looking for a solution for their portal called My School, and it's kind of a classroom file space, common file space, and they've decided to go forward with us. And in the past few months, they have rigorously evaluated our software, and we have worked hard at making sure that all the different relationships between students, staff, entities are actually replicated in the different folders. So you will have a classroom folder where the students have read access, but only the teachers have write access. And all these different aspects that are important to such a collaboration on such a scale. As you can see there are also some numbers to it. It's not an active deployment as we speak. I'm not 100% sure when they will deploy it. I only know that the testing has been 100% completed, I think 2 months ago, 1 or 2 months ago. And I believe most likely they will do the rollout in summer. This is the scale of the students, 45,000 students and 12,000 teachers. And the brand or the product that this will run under will be the myschool.lu. Okay. And yeah, since we don't have much time left, let's just go to the next point. Recently, about 6 weeks ago, we've entered talks with Janet because, as Brooke from Terna pointed out to us, that they're doing Project Moonshot. That might be a very interesting extension to what we're already doing. And what Janet does with Moonshot is that they're trying to deliver a unified approach for securing access to any service or application. So within a few telcos and talks, we've kind of agreed on that both parties are interested in reaching something that would look like a Moonshot technology integrated into PowerFolder will enable a federated private cloud file space with a federated identity provider. And that's actually what we're working on. And if you want to see any of these things, just go over to the Géant booth, and there you will see a live demo of both Moonshot and PowerFolder. That's it. Oh, and one more thing, if you want to have more detailed information, we have these brochures laying around at the Géant booth. Thank you.
because of the adage that you can't keep a good thing down.
Am I good?
And it depends whether you've actually eaten at the sort of tapas bar in town, because you know that if you can't keep it down, it's not because it's good. We've got Scott Ray back again.
Yeah, all right, and to be fair, because you had to put up with me twice, I want to balance the scale up a little bit. So since DigiCert is a sponsor of the conference, I have 3 DigiCert hats here, which I will give away to the first 3 people who come up to me after this session today and can give me a proper Australian g'day, not like SAT, has to be Australian, no New Zealand, and ask me about one of these research projects. So in keeping in mind with the previous presentation, again, there's some additional research that is going on. I spoke about one aspect that was being carried out. Again, this is also being led by Dartmouth and New York University. And again, it is focusing on those CAs. One of the things that came out of the compromises, it was found that revocation processes for internet CAs are terribly lacking. And in particular, OCSP was found to be quite deficient. And there really is not a very good plan or implementation, at least, of managing trust anchors in a dynamic way that users could actually control. The browsers really have control of that, and they didn't necessarily respond as quickly as folks wanted. CAB Forum is a forum of the internet browsers and those CAs that are trusted in operating systems and browsers. And again, here's those same four principles that they're working on as a result of these attacks. You'll notice that one of those, the second one there, is to find ways to improve revocation mechanisms in the existing infrastructure. And so they have formed a working group to take a look at that. The participants come from the Internet CA browser group. Browsers, the CAs, research and EDU are participating. IETF and the major allying parties are all participating in the working group. They're having monthly conference calls. The things that they are looking at is data availability and in different formats, access to revocation services without latency, taking into account the high maintenance costs that typically come into play for high available services, and how they can really manage this set of trust anchor routes, perhaps independent of browsers or in conjunction with browsers. Some of the initial proposals that have been looked at in timeframe reference in terms of what can be addressed short term, what would take a midterm to implementation, and what's a little bit further out. Keeping in mind that this is not starting points for each of these initial proposals. Each of these proposals are, in theory, being worked on right now as we speak. This is when we would expect to see them reaching their fruition if we worked on them today. And so some of the things that were looked at short term is lightweight OCSP. We have RSC 5019 that defines some things in that, yet there were some deficiencies there. Actually, I'm going to go through these individually if I have time. So the first thing that the working group looked at is what are the best practices that the internet CAs are undergoing, or what would be best practices to implement. Having multiple sources of revocation status data, whether that be CRL or OCSP and multiple versions of that. Pre-computing responses for OCSP is a best practice, and publishing them every few hours or a day at most. Having geographically dispersed points that folks can pull from, so as long as the idea being you get the revocation status provision service as close as possible to the person who is trying to pull that data. And perhaps looking at different mechanisms for distributing that revocation data, whether that is over content distribution networks or taking advantage of OCSP stapling. Some of the issues that were pointed out, there is a major browser right now that still does post and does not do GET. If we can do GET, then CDNs become very easy to support. There are different encoding that might come into play. That being the case, although the closer that we've looked at that seems a smaller and smaller issue. And then again, there are high costs of deploying OCSP services if you're going to physically host them. Therefore, the stapling and using the caching via CDNs is a better way to go. Some opportunities, let's try and get OCSPs kind of like CRLs, but just as small as possible, so that you don't actually have to do a request and you can just do a pull out of a CDN. So short-term approaches, promote best practices in, as I just went through, in the community, to update 5019 with the pieces that it's missing, and then address implementation issues by actually working on server implementations to support these things. Mid-term approaches, we're working on an RFC, and long-term approaches are really just discussions at this point. That's it.
Remember to find Scott to get a hat. Thank you for staying this long. Remember, you can look at the stream and you can look at people's slides at the website. You can catch other presentations that you might have missed. There is a BOF in this room, so if you're interested in the work of the unhosted guys, stay in this room or go out and see if there's any coffee still left over, or get a drink and be back in here in half an hour. And remember, in 2 hours' time, give or take, yeah? So we're only 5 minutes over. Not too bad. So in 2 hours' time, the buses will depart, or at least the first bus departs in 2 hours' time from outside this venue if you're going to the opening reception. You're all invited to the opening reception, if there was any confusion. You've got the rest of the week at TNC. I hope you found the presenters interesting. Track them down if you want to collaborate more or get some more information out of their presentations. Their details are online, they're around the place. Check Twitter or your favourite social networking site. And yeah, thank you.
On the street where you live.